this one is a really easy one to follow. This topic is Srila Prabhupada's composition of Light of the Bhagavat. Light of the Bhagavat. It's a nice story. And then what to speak of the book is a nice book. You see on the right hand side, that's an image that's one of the many covers to this book, Light of the Bhagavat. And it's the second book that Srila Prabhupada wrote. The date of it being written was 1961. You know, Srila Prabhupada left for the West on 1965. He reached in 1966 and so forth. So this is very early in his life as an acharya, a world acharya. And the beginnings are very humble. But let's begin in 1952. First, let us offer obeisances to Prabhupada together. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhotale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Vasyachade Satadine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The title of this book, Light of the Bhagavat, comes from a verse in Canto 1, Chapter 3, Srimad Bhagavatam. In Canto 1, Chapter 1, the sages of Naimisharanya are meeting with Sutta Goswami, and they know that Sutta Goswami was in the audience hearing from Shukadev Goswami, so they want to hear what he heard. But they asked it not, what did you hear? They asked in the form of specific questions. There were 6 specific questions in Canto 1, Chapter 1. And Canto 1, Chapters 2 and 3, there's specific answers. And the 6th question was, now that Krishna has departed, where have religious principles taken shelter? That was the question. And the answer was the Srimad Bhagavatam. The poetry, the poetic imagery is very nice. Just as the sun is setting on the western horizon, shortly thereafter, the moon, as brilliant as the sun, has arisen. And that moon, as brilliant as the sun, is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So after Krishna departed, shortly thereafter, the Bhagavatam appeared. Just as the sun sets on the west, the moon may rise, but in this particular case, the moon is as brilliant as the sun, meaning not different than the sun, not different than Krishna is Krishna, in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, giving light in this dark age of Kali. Thus, Light of the Bhagavat, the title. Very interesting. My reason for selecting this topic, there are 2 reasons. One, it's really easy to follow, because some of the things I've been doing this past weekend maybe haven't been so easy for people to follow. But another is that I plan to give a seminar, a 13-part seminar on this topic on the Thanksgiving weekend, and I'll invite you to join virtually or come in person if you want to hear the details and details of this amazing, amazing literature, Light of the Bhagavad. Let us begin. In 1952, Srila Prabhupada was trying, great Acharya, he was a householder, he was trying to bring his family, particularly his wife, into the fold of Krishna Bhakti. Because, as you know, Srila Prabhupada from his childhood was trained very nicely, as some of our younger generation devotees here also trained very nicely in a life of devotion. Gaur Mohan Day was Prabhupada's father. Here's a photograph where it shows in the center there's his slender father. At this time, Prabhupada was a householder. On his lap is one of his two children at this time. That he had two children, he had more later. And in the upper right corner, that's his younger brother. And by his side, that's his wife. And his widowed sister has the other child on her lap. And her son is standing behind Gaur Mohande. So this is it's a photograph. It's nice to get a visual picture of Srila Prabhupada's family life. But somehow, as we know, his wife was not as devotional as Prabhupada was. And he didn't push, but it was encouraging, and she this celebrated event. Now, during this period, 1952, printing presses were rare, very rustic. Like offset printing press means, I don't know if you've seen anything from an offset press, but the letters are not even in a row. They just set the letters manually and then press the letters onto the page. That makes an offset press. So he had a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam, not with purports and everything, just the verses. And the celebrated it's tea or me, and so in defiance she bartered Prabhupada's Bhagavatam for tea biscuits. I don't even know what a tea biscuit is, but that was it. He was very unhappy with that defiance and that insult to the Bhagavatam, not to him but to the Bhagavatam, and so he left home in 1954. So let's just keep these dates. At this stage, he's 59. By this time, his children were mature. They could run the business. They had been trained to run his business. So he didn't leave them. He didn't leave his wife hanging in the air. They were taken care of financially. And he just left. According to Lilamrita, he was very sad. But he was also very resolved and determined, because of all that his father had given him, and he had already met Bhaktisiddhanta. He was determined to carry on the instruction that Bhaktisiddhanta had given him, which was take this message to the English-speaking parts of the world. So he had no means to do that, but he was resolved to do that. And Lilamrita describes he got on a train, heading he didn't know exactly where, and determined to carry out the mission that his spiritual master had given him. So leaving something behind and taking up something anew. And it said where he went was a place just a short train ride south of Calcutta. There was an ashram at Jhargram, and that's where he ended up. And he stayed there for some time, not knowing exactly what the future would look like, but he had this mission and he had to prepare himself for this mission. Now, in the course of trying to fulfill his mission, different opportunities came along, and one of them was in Jhansi. You see the celebrated League of Devotees. See that big sign on the boundary wall of the property? Two ladies had some property. 1954, he went to that property. They volunteered. You can take over the property. We're old ladies, and you can carry forward your mission. So it's in this place, as you probably know, Srila Prabhupada wrote League of Devotees, which was the precursor to ISKCON Inc. League of Devotees was a formal document registered within India to establish, this worldwide organization based in Jhansi. Now, it never happened because the ladies did some flim-flam. They had somebody else came along saying, we'll do this and that, and they became inclined to the person that said they can do this and that. So they made a condition to Prabhupada that he had to complete the construction of a temple by such and such date or he'd lose everything. And he knew what that meant. So he walked away. And where did he go when he walked away? He left Jhansi, and he went to follow an invitation. I mean, he went to many other places, but he got an invitation from one of his godbrothers named Keshava Maharaj. You've heard his name before, perhaps. Keshava Maharaj was residing at Keshava Mandir. And Keshava Mandir is the mandir in Mathura. That's one of the principal deities that Vajranabh, Krishna's great-grandson, had established, Keshava. So Keshava Maharaj happened to be very gifted, like Prabhupada, very gifted at writing. He's an intellectual, very learned, and very gifted at writing. So Keshava Maharaj had invited Srila Prabhupada to come to Mathura and assist him. Here's a nice photograph of Keshava Maharaj. And he was working on the Gaudiya Patrika. The Gaudiya Patrika was in English, and it was one of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's many publications, just taking essays and articles that Bhaktisiddhanta had written and some of his very senior disciples, that they could also submit articles. And so Bhakti Pragya Keshava Maharaj invited Prabhupada to come and stay with him in Mathura and assist him in that work. Well, around that time, there was another who lived in Delhi. This is a photograph of him. And Bhakti Saranga Maharaj was also a literary person. And he knew that Prabhupada was a literary person, so he also invited him, Prabhupada, to go to Delhi. So he went to Delhi, and he found it wasn't so good in Delhi. I mean, the ashram the deity worship wasn't nice. There was quarreling amongst the brahmacharis. It wasn't very clean. It wasn't, but there was some service and there was some service. So you get the picture. The picture I'm trying to portray here is he had skill, and these senior disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta, at this stage Prabhupada was not a sannyasi. Later he became a sannyas disciple of Keshava Maharaj. So while staying in Delhi to assist Bhakti Saranga Maharaj, here's a little description taken directly from Lilamrita. Abai was trying to print back to Godhead. In winter's discomfort, this is Delhi, he walked through the early morning streets of Delhi to visit Surendra Kumar Jain, the printer, to read the latest proofs. By walking, he saved money. He had no chadar, only a lightweight cotton jacket, and he wore rubber shoes. He also wore a cotton hat that covered his ears and tied beneath his chin, protecting him from the 40 degrees, this is Fahrenheit, wintry mornings and the sometimes gusty winds. And then summers in Delhi can be unbearable. Summer came, and the 110 degree, that's Fahrenheit, heat made it almost intolerable to spend time out of doors. Hot, dust-laden winds blew in the city streets. Street-side hawkers closed their businesses during the day. In early May, during 112 degree heat, a man collapsed in the street and died of heat stroke. But Abai ignored the heat and ordinary limitations of the body. So this is 1954, 1955. He left his household ashram status, 52. 3 years later, 55. He's going here, going there, trying to start something, trying to assist his Guru Maharaj in his projects, beginning innovatively Back to Godhead. So Back to Godhead was a way that Prabhupada had to practice his writing and communicate the Bhakti message in little articles that were published in this Back to Godhead, his publication. And others were also invited to submit articles, etc. Same that Prabhupada did when Back to Godhead magazine got revived in America. And he had a system where he wanted to meet people and impress the message, and once they were impressed with the message, to give them something, Back to Godhead magazine, and then make them subscribers so that he would have the resources to do XYZ. It's publication. He decided in 1956, so it's 4 years after his leaving the Grahastha ashram, he moved to Vrindavan. And this is a photograph of the place where he stayed for about 6 years. And it's called the Vangshi Gopalji Temple. Now, many of us have read or heard that Prabhupada had said many times, in Vrindavan there are 5,000 temples. Well, those 5,000 temples were sometimes really small places like this. This is basically somebody's home. But, it's a little bit larger than a normal home in Vrindavan. But the system at the time was when families were wealthy enough, they didn't just build themselves a home, but they established a temple. And a temple wasn't just like, installing a deity in your home and doing worship in your home. They had a little temple in their home. This cultured people would do things like that. So this family, we'll hear the family's name shortly, they lived in this Vangshi Gopalji temple near Keshigat. We'll show you a photograph of where Keshigat is. So this is from the side. Notice there's a little sign hanging above the entryway, and there's the sign hanging above the entryway, and it's the Vangshi Gopal Mandir entrance. You go up that set of steps, and what you find on the other side is a courtyard. And in the courtyard, there's a tulsi tree, and look to the left, and you see also some arches. And that's where the temple is. You see a little cow there too. And there's the deities, very sweet deities, Radha, Vangshi Gopal. Notice he's not holding his flute. And the reason he's not holding his flute is the photograph was taken during the offering, because when the deity is offered bhoga, you take the flute out of his hand so he can enjoy prasad. So there's the Vangshi Gopal deity, and here's a photograph of the steps, 28 steps leading up to his room. Now remember his age. He's in his early 60s, nearly mid-60s at this stage, and going up 20 flights of stairs, and I don't even see a railing. going up and going up and going up and going up. And this is the sweet, the ecstatic place that Srila Prabhupada stayed for 6 years. And as we go forward, you just keep the picture of this room in your mind. The size of the space, 17 feet by 9 feet. And, classic 10-foot tall ceilings with paint coming off the walls. And notice there's no toilet, there's no kitchen, there's no running water, it's just 4 walls, some windows, and little space. And that's the place where Prabhupada launched the international extension of the message of bhakti to the world. And he had that vision. You'll hear as we go forward. He was very clear what his vision was. His life was as simple as anything could be. He had nothing. He had nothing. He didn't bring money from home. He didn't have anybody sending donations or something like that. He was just on his own in his 60s, starting a worldwide Hare Krishna movement with just a vision. And he would cook. He had a little cooker in the room. That's where he did his cooking. And then when he would go downstairs and offer his cooking to the deity, he had to use the toilet downstairs because there wasn't one upstairs. It's where the family used. That was what he did for 6 years. Here's you see that side door, little wooden side door, and this is what when you walk out the side door, there's this balcony or terrace, and you see over in the far distance, that's the river Jamuna. And very close to where this temple is the Keshigat, celebrated place. Maybe some of you have been to Keshigat. And this is looking out the front side on the right. That's where at the entrance to their home or the temple. And then again from the rooftop, there's River Jamuna. Here's a map to show where that pink thing in the middle, that's Vangsi Gopal Mandir, and some of the other places. It's not far from Gopal Bhatta's Samadhi, which means it's not far from Radharaman Temple, which means that Srila Prabhupada made a friendship with the main priest, the Goswami, at the Radharaman Temple. At that time, his name was Vishvambar Goswami. Vishvambar Goswami is the one that did the installation of Krishna Balaram, because amongst the Goswamis, the principal temples of the 6 Goswamis, Vishvambar Goswami was the most elevated and most learned in the procedures of deity worship, and so he agreed to do the installation, which meant everyone accepted. So you get a picture of Prabhupada just beginning, very, very humble beginnings. And this went on for several years. He made Vrindavan his base. During this period of time, he would not only go to Delhi, but he would go to other cities sometimes. And he was interested in reaching out to pious people and having them understand the bhakti message and receive his Back to Godhead magazine. But nothing really amounted to too much. Sometimes he would take a morning train into Delhi. He had no place to stay, so he had to come back the same night by train to Vrindavan. And riding by train isn't fun. He didn't have money, much. So it was tough times. And after some time, so remember, he's living in Vrindavan, and not far from Vrindavan is Mathura, and in Mathura was Keshava Maharaj, and Keshava Maharaj was encouraging Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada. He understood that what was in Prabhupada's heart, and he understood the instruction that Bhaktisiddhanta gave to Prabhupada twice to go to the West. So he said, you need to take sannyas. and saying it again and saying it again and saying it again and saying it again. Prabhupada finally accepted sannyas from Kesha Maharaj in 1959. So remember the dates. Prabhupada is staying at the Bangsi Gopal temple from 1956 to 1962. And Vishvambar Goswami, who had become Prabhupada's friend, had a friendship with the head Goswami of the Radha Damodar temple. And Vishvambar Goswami knew that there were two little rooms, really little rooms, at the Radha Damodar temple that were available. So he encouraged the Goswami at the Radha Damodar temple to invite Prabhupada to stay in those rooms, to shift from the Bangsi Gopal temple to the Radha Damodar temple. So he did. He approached Prabhupada. His name was Gorachand Goswami. Met with Prabhupada and invited him to come, and Prabhupada went there, and he looked at the rooms, and there hadn't been people in the rooms for many years. They were in very poor repair, hardly at all maintained, but it was very auspicious because those rooms, many of you have seen those rooms, it's right by the altar, and just around the corner, now it modified a whole bunch, but out in the courtyard on this property was the Bhajan Kutir and the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami. How auspicious. Radha Damodar over here, and Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi right there, and he's like their neighbor, or literally in the courtyard of the temple. And so he accepted the offer. There was something like 15 rupees was the monthly fee. It was like it was to live beyond his lifetime. Prabhupada had a way of looking ahead, and so there's a contract that has been in dispute since, but it's still standing because it was a contract, a legal document. And so Prabhupada spent some money fixing up the rooms and having electricity put into the rooms so he could stay there. And then he shifted from Bangsi Gopal temple to the Radha Damodar temple, and he's now still doing his writing. Starting in 59, so while he's staying at the Bangsi Gopal temple, he's also, among other things, writing, making his Bhaktivedanta purports to Srimad Bhagavatam, because that was he had this training from Bhaktisiddhanta. Some of you know this. Some of you may not know this. Bhaktisiddhanta very much wanted to preach, to take the message outside of India. So England was the target. You know about this? You know? England? Bhaktisiddhanta sent 2 sannyasis to England to preach Krishna consciousness. Do you know that history? No? Ban Maharaj was the name of one, another very erudite person, and another, and Bhaktisiddhanta had a small donation from each of the Gaudiya Math temples in India to make a donation to send these sannyasis so they could go with the donation. But their departure was delayed because Bhaktisiddhanta wanted them to take with them a book. It was Sri Krishna Chaitanya. It's a book that's this thick. It was written by Professor Sanyal, who was a professor in Orissa, and disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta. But he was a very, very comprehensive book. They're taking the message of Lord Chaitanya in the book called Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And the departure was delayed, waiting for the book, because he wanted them to go with the book. So now Prabhupada is also going to the West with the order of Bhaktisiddhanta to do so. He wants to take him with a book. And the book was Srimad Bhagavatam. Listen to this. It's really simple. A equals B, B equals C, so A equals C. You know that one, right? The teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. The teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam are the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. They're non-different. following his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta, who wanted Sri Krishna Chaitanya book to go with the two sannyasis that went to England, but they weren't successful, so they came back. Prabhupada is going to go to America instead of England with Srimad Bhagavatam, but he's waiting until he has a book. The book, the plan, was the first 3 volumes of Canto 1. But he had no money. So somehow or another, in 1961, the first volume came out. 1961, he's still at the Vangsi Gopal temple. So he's writing the Bhagavatam, and here's taken directly from Lilamrita, this language that's on the screen here. That was his real purpose in coming here, Vrindavan, to prepare the books he would distribute to the people of the West. Although, as yet, he had no means for traveling even as far as Japan, and no means for printing books. Mention of Japan is there, you'll hear why in a moment. He didn't have money to travel, didn't have money to print books. These were the goals for which he worked. He had not come to Vrindavan to die and return to Godhead. Rather, he had come because it was the ideal place to gain spiritual strength for his main life work, which was starting the Hare Krishna movement, following behind or bringing with him Srimad Bhagavatam. So in 1960, Prabhupada published his first book. In 1960, that first book was E.G. Journey to Other Planets, because at that time, being aware of current events, space exploration was a big deal. You know, the United States and Russia were competing who's going to get to the moon first, and then put its flag in the moon and say it's ours. Right? It's like colonization. That's how countries would do. Put the Spanish flag in America, say this belongs to Spain. The French would say put their flag, it belongs to France. So, same mood. So Prabhupada wrote a book. His first published book, 1960, E.G. Journey to Other Planets. You know the content. Now, here's Professor Sanyal. You now see his picture, not just his name. Ravenshaw College in Cuttack. He wrote this book, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, and Prabhupada is writing the Bhagavatam. So here's his schedule. 1 a.m. Do I see anybody yawning yet? At 1 a.m., Prabhupada was up. Everything was quiet, and he would begin his writing. Since there were electric failures, he would work by lantern light. That's Lilamrita. And in 1962, the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the next year, 63, the second volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. 1964, the third volume of Canto 1, Srimad Bhagavatam. He had no money, but somehow or other, he got it done, because Krishna was helping him. That's how he got it done. Now, it's in this period of time, 1960, 1962, 63, 64, he was in Delhi, and in January of 1961, so remember, 1961 is still at the Vangsi Gopal temple, and he met a man in Delhi who gave him a flyer that he received in the mail, or somehow he received it. On the map it shows there's subcontinent of India in green, and over there in orange on the right side, that's Japan. And the flyer said that a conference was going to be held called Congress for the Cultivation of the Human Spirit, which could mean almost anything. Euphemistic, but what does it mean? And it was to be held, so this is January, a conference to be held in May in Japan. And Prabhupada thought, conference on something that I could maybe present the light of the Bhagavat, or the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam to an educated, enlightened group of people. Because historically, you may have some idea, during World War II, walls were put up. People couldn't travel from one country to another. You couldn't get visas. It was like they didn't trust anybody. And it lasted for some time. Like Prabhupada got his visa to come to America just after they allowed visas to America, because till then it was like locked up. So in 1961, Japan was allowing people to come from other countries because the pendulum was starting to swing in the other direction. Open up the doors, and forward-thinking people were thinking, war is not nice. Let's be nice. Let's have cultivation of the human spirit. So this leader, organizer, person sent out a flyer worldwide to invite people to attend his conference. So Prabhupada thought, why not? Although Bhakti Siddhanta had told me to go to the West, it's the principle is outside the land of India. The message should be heard around the world. And so he wrote a letter to this organizer in asking the organizer to send an invitation letter so he could get a visa and a passport. They didn't have either. And so he wrote to the man. You'll see the letter shortly. And his vision was, if it's approved, he had a sense, and he's right, that Oriental people have a tendency to understand or learn lessons of life from scenes of nature. Yes? Yes. And so the scene of nature that he thought of, because he's very involved in Srimad Bhagavatam, was Canto 10, Chapter 20. Canto 10, of course, is Krishna in Vrindavan, and then Mathura, and then Dwarka. And Chapter 20, he's still in Vrindavan, and Chapter 20 comes right after Chapter 19. And in Chapter 19, it's the summer, and the cowherd boys, and all that nice, Krishna's activities with the cowherd boys. And then comes Chapter 20, and it's the rainy season. And it's all about what's the rainy season like. And then right after the rainy season is the autumn season. That's Chapter 20. So scenes of nature, rainy season, autumn season. Describe it for his audience in Japan, because they could understand lessons of life through scenes of nature. So here's the scenes of nature, and then he extracted lessons of life. It's really fantastic. He tells the whole Bhagavatam through the scenes of nature. And he's just getting started. He's, just getting started. It's his second book. So he conceived of this idea, and so he wrote a letter, and here's the gist of the letter. How should one cultivate human spirit? It's the how-to idea. I wish to impress, think of that little room where Prabhupada was staying in Vamsi Gopal, because this is when this was going on. And he's writing this letter to an organizer of an event in Tokyo. I wish to impress the public delegates who would internationally join the conference for culture and human spirit in Japan about the necessity of an international movement. Think of the room. Prabhupada's got nothing, and he's thinking of an international movement. He's a visionary and gifted by Krishna to make it happen. Towards this unifying purpose, this is Lilamrita, his vision was that the cooperation of all the enlightened people of the world would be channeled. Prabhupada's vision. Although there was no international movement at that stage. Kindly, therefore, do the needful immediately and give me the chance to speak to the enlightened people of the world the message of human culture from the Vedic literature. I am sure that such news will change the angle of vision of the world's activities. Powerful Acharya, and he had nothing. And for a long time he had nothing. But he had a vision, so he had everything, and it unfolded by Krishna's grace. So the organizer sent back the following letter. Now all this corresponds to Prabhupada, Prabhupada to the guy, to the organizer. It gives his name here. It was all in a trunk. They were found later, 23 years later. So here's the reply letter. This is to certify. Basically, he's saying, I invite him to come, and I'll take care of his meals, but I can't take up his airfare. So please give him a visa. That's essentially what the letter says, with his his title. Okay, so Prabhupada not only had a vision of what to write, he began writing. And as he began writing, it happened quickly. It happened a 20,000 word manuscript. Those of you that have written Vyasa Puja homages, you know how long it takes to write meaningful something or other from your heart. 20,000 word manuscript with 50 commentaries, and gave it a title, Light of the Bhagavata. And he not only had an idea of a book, it grew. It's like Matsya just grew and grew and grew. So he then wrote to the organizer of the event, and he asked the organizer of the event to find an artist that had Oriental art skills and make 50 illustrations. And he put in writing what those illustrations should look like, 50 of them. And he wanted him to make the illustrations, please, and then make blow-up of those illustrations so they can be shown around the hall at the convention. And then please print the book. I mean, Prabhupada had nothing, so what's the harm to ask, right? With the illustrations in the book. So the Matsya just kept getting bigger and bigger. However, there were obstacles. And since they wouldn't pay for, he asked, they wouldn't pay for his airfare, so he had to go find the airfare. 3,500 rupees airfare. Today it's like nothing. And then he had nothing. So he went, here's a little description. He went to people that had something, and he presented himself as what he was. He's a renounced person representing our Vedic culture or India culture. Please make arrangements so that I can travel to this event that I've been invited to attend. So he tried. He went to government officers like the Ministry of Scientific Research and Cultural Affairs. He went to meet the Vice President of India, Dr. Radhakrishna. Sorry, Charlie, no airfare to Japan. Potential donors in Bombay and Delhi, because his Back to Godhead magazine tours put him in touch with people of means, and they weren't going to take care of his airfare. He contacted the organizer himself, and there was no money, so he didn't go. And the manuscript ended up in a trunk. This is 1961. The correspondence, the description of the paintings, everything, and manuscript, it ended up in a trunk. Never got published because he didn't have the money. But Prabhupada wasn't discouraged because he was just very determined. It's a good lesson. Not just, if you're going to be a world acharya, you have to be ready to meet obstacles and not get discouraged. If you want to be a practicing sadhaka, you have to be very determined, and you know what the goal is, and you stay fixed on the goal, whether there's results or no results. And you can remember, Prabhupada didn't get results right away. So why was that? You can say different reasons why it was that. Krishna was strengthening, testing, building his determination to reach the goal, not the results. The goal is take the message and the results up to Krishna, right? So what happened was, in the Aurobindo Society, they took excerpts from the book and they published in their publication, accrediting Tridandi Goswami A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Well, lo and behold, after Prabhupada's departure, 23 years later, after the book was written, it was found in a trunk, along with many other things that were in it. It's a very celebrated trunk. Won't list some of the other things that were found. But they found the manuscript. Now what to do with the manuscript? Because it was written for Japan, and there was no temple in Japan yet, they gave the manuscript to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, because he was based in Hong Kong at the time, in 1984. So do the math. From 1961 to 1984, it's 23 years, right? They gave it to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and you want something impossible, give it to Tamal Krishna Maharaj and he'll get it done. And so he did. He, based in Hong Kong, he found a very talented, elderly but celebrated artist, had a certain art style, and Giridhari Swami told me this not so long ago. She came once a month for almost a year, 11 months, something like that. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was the art director, she was the artist, and Prabhupada was the visionary. He took the words of what Prabhupada wanted the paintings to be, and he tried to get, as the art director, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, the art director, to get this nice lady to make the paintings, and, this is good, change that, something, something, something. And by the end, there were 48, if I remember the number correctly, 48 paintings. And then he took the book, and it wasn't in English. Prabhupada had written it in English. He had to translate it into Chinese, and he printed it in Chinese. So there's one title, one cover painting, and there's like several of them. Here's another cover painting, and Light of the Bhagavata. And there's our founder Acharya. Last slide. Although he wanted to go to Japan even before coming to the USA, and although he wrote the book Light of the Bhagavata especially to preach the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam in Japan, Krishna had a different plan and sent him first to the USA. So that's just like an introduction to the book, and then there's the book. And if you want to find out more about the book, I spoke on this already, I think in central New Jersey, but coming up Thanksgiving weekend this year, 13-part. This introduction will be the first part, but then 12 other parts is these 48. Prabhupada didn't call them verses, he called them chapters. And what he what he did was, he took verses or sections of verses. He didn't, translate them directly. He summarized them because he had a purpose. He had an audience. He's painting a picture of scenes of nature. He's painting a picture, literally, of scenes of nature through words and through artwork. And there's this scene of the rainy season. And even if you don't attend the seminar or hear the recordings, read the book, because your socks will fall off. You'll just be in awe at how masterful our founder Acharya was in taking something very simple and narrating literally the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. Varnashram. He took one verse from the 5th canto Bhagavatam. So he also included cosmology, but self-realization, social structure, the qualities of a sadhu. It's masterful, just from scenes of nature. So, didn't get published during Prabhupada's lifetime, but it got published later. In the year 2017, there's I think it's in Dandavats.com or one of those sites. In Brazil, in the year 2017, somebody got the bright idea of doing what Prabhupada wanted by making blow-ups of those photographs, put them inside a mall, of course translated into Portuguese, and sold copies of Light of the Bhagavad in Portuguese. So I got so excited about this when I came to understand what the book was intended to be, that I made a whole presentation for the China BBT. They didn't have it in stock. They printed it, and then it sold out in a week because I gave a seminar on the book. And I told Slavas, I want to do this in America. Can you print the book? It's out of stock. We printed the book. It's now in stock. For me, it's like it touches my heart. So I'm excited about the message and method of our founder Acharya giving what he gave in the way in which he gave it, just scenes of nature and telling the story of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he gets into details. This is new people. But what his vision was expressed in the letter to the organizer of the event. He wanted to because these are forward-thinking people. The pendulum is swinging this way now. The doors are being unlocked. Forward-thinking people are thinking, let the human spirit flourish, because everyone's been intimidated by war and mistrust and conflict and all those things. So now it's starting to move in this positive direction. He wanted to catch the wave, be with those forward-thinking people, capture their attention, and change the direction of society toward the spiritual destination. Not just let's get together and hug one another, but a spiritual solution. He felt it. He was carrying in his heart. It's very powerful literature. I mean, our founder Charya was powerful, whether it was that literature or anything that he did. But it's right after Easy Journey to Other Planets. It's his first book published, or to be published. It never made it. So later. I hope I haven't overwhelmed you. I'm a little animated about this. And when you start going through it, you'll get animated too, I think. It's a skinny book, really skinny. I didn't bring copies with me. I thought about it. Too late to bring copies with me, but it's available from the BBT. It's available online if you don't like paying for a skinny book. Database has it. If you like reading digital books, it's there. Your feelings for our founder Acharya will become more profound than they are at the moment. By seeing what he's doing and how he's doing it, and how effective. Okay, so that's the evening discussion. And let's see if there's some comments or questions or thoughts you'd like to share on this. Those of you that are sitting in the front, just look over your shoulder. See, some people came a little bit later. So it's good that you move forward. So I thank you for that.
We had been reading Leelamrita for some time in group.
And, your reading group?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we read this part of the pastime a while ago, but it was an observation when we were presenting it in the slides. With the pictures, it actually
brings it to life. Well, like it or not, I'm somewhat of a visual person, and pictures make a lot. They mean a lot.
Thank you.
Can I tell you a story? You sure?
Yes.
Okay. Once upon a time, I was a new devotee. And as a new devotee, the temple that I had joined was the Boston Temple, and I joined the Boston Temple because I had visited Boston some time before to possibly enroll in a graduate school in Boston, because there are lots of schools in Boston. When I was in Boston, I visited the Boston Temple, because where I went to school there was a little preaching center, but not a big, nice temple. So I went to the temple. I was so overwhelmed by the association there that when I decided I wanted to live in an ashram for a while, I went to the Boston Temple. In those days, there wasn't a BBT. It was ISKCON Press. Later, Prabhupada formed the BBT, a trust, instead of ISKCON Press. When in that temple, it was just a single-family residence, and we lived like sardines in this single-family residence. And the BBT, the ISKCON Press, was also there along with the temple devotees and the pujaris and the cooks. And one part of the ISKCON Press at that time were the artists. So we were told, you can't go to where the artists are, they have to really focus on their art. So I was disobedient. I went after Sankirtan and just, was silent, but I just sat and watched them doing the painting, and they were very kind. And they would, as they were painting, they're describing the story that they're illustrating in their painting. Bhagavatam, before it happened, they received the recordings first. So the transcribers were transcribing, but they were hearing the recordings. And then there was 3 artists. Bhardraj was the one that conceived the painting. He did the drawings. John Rani filled it in, and Muralidhar did the details. So I would sit, and they would narrate, and I would watch the Srimad Bhagavatam visually. It's still with me. It takes time to put, but pictures speak 1,000 words, and it helps bring insight, for me at least. Okay, anything else?
Thank you so much. It was really very, very nice class. It just felt like seeing Prabhupada going through all those years. It was awesome. I just want to say, Maharaj, many years back I had read this book, but after hearing this class, it has just brought so much enthusiasm to go back, pick the book again and read. Thank you so much. Very grateful to you.
I want many persons as my enthusiasm can touch will hopefully do the same thing. Many people buy books and it just sits on their shelf and they never read it the first time. But now more people will read it first time, second time, or third time, but get more meaning from it because it's small and very, very profound. I mean, when you read it again, look closely at how Prabhupada doesn't know the audience. He's never been outside of the from India. But he's got what the vision is in his heart, we see in this letter. He wants to touch the hearts of intellectuals and thoughtful people and change the direction of the world. And he's writing with that purpose and vision and empowerment in his heart. Seeds of nature, and very quickly he moves. He does more of the scenes of nature in the commentary, but then he moves to lessons of the Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavatam means to turn attention to the Supreme Person. And he says some really far out things. It speaks about the gopis and to people that don't know anything about anything. He doesn't start there, but he goes there. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Yes.
Thank you for explaining how Prabhupada has sacrificed and took so much of trouble. Now, if you see, like, Prabhupada also had hard time convincing people in India to take the truth.
Yes.
But when he came into the West and he got the Western devotees and showed them that part of bhakti is far superior than what they think of materialism. But now, like if you see here, like we come across the same situation sometimes.
When we do what?
We come across the same situation in presenting the process of bhakti
to
maybe students, college, like, and we may have to explain the miseries of materialism. At that point itself, they may kind of become discouraged, or they may feel like, okay, this person is confusing us like that. So I'm trying to know, like, presenting the situation where, like, you have mentioned, like, Prabhupada has to taken out the most portrayal things, like about the nature and all, and painted, like putting the spring season of Vrindavan first rather than summer season of Vrindavan Srimad Bhagavatam. So like that, like what can we present to the students or somebody who is like worldly mentality, but they are a little bit interested in knowing about Bhagavad Gita or something like that.
Well, you're looking for let me speak in principle rather than the cookie cutter answer, because I don't find there's a cookie cutter answer to your question. Let's say I also reach out to college students a bunch, very dedicated to it for a reason. It's giving back. I received, I want to give back. There's no end to giving back. So that's my reason. That's my inspiration, motivation. I received, I want to give back. And my experience is, I as a speaker, and another person as a speaker, and another person as a speaker, and another as a speaker, we have our personalities, and our approach is going to be different. And over passage of time, there's waves within the population of students that moves this way, and then it moves that way. And so one has to be flexible. You and I and anyone has to be, we have our personalities, we also have to be flexible. And customize according to the audience and the time and your personality. I recommend three things to respond to your question. Recognize your nature. You don't have to copy. Someone else does like this and they're successful, so let me copy someone else that does like this because they're successful. You can take inspiration from someone that's successful, but you have to be yourself. And by being yourself, that's one, and recognizing the audience and how to best relate to the audience. Those things, you'll experiment as you go along, not only in colleges, but preaching in general, how to distribute books and how to do anything, how to cook for the Rath Yatra or anything. So there's some experimentation. But you want to make sure that your heart is oriented towards the purpose, and then speak from that. Address yourself to the audience with that inspiration in your heart. Like you, for example, one of the things you said, you have to speak about the miseries of material existence. Well, it depends on how you do that, or if you do that. I don't so much emphasize that, although Prabhupada certainly did. But he had an audience. And his audience was the young counterculture people who were already rejecting the values that were prevalent in their previous generation, the materialistic values. So he was just, speaking to the choir. He wasn't speaking against the Bhagavatam. He was customizing the message for this audience. So you need to do that. Know your audience. O speaker, know thy audience. And be relatable, meaning, find out what works, what moves their hearts, And different persons are going to have different approaches, and that's just fine. So be yourself, speak from your heart, whatever the message is, or as I just did. I have feeling for this book, and so it comes out when I'm not just speaking about the book. The feelings come out, and that's attractive. People may not be so interested in this book, but now they may be more interested in this book because of the enthusiasm that I have for what, not only what's in the book, but what Prabhupada was attempting to do and how he went about it. It's very masterful. So those things that you have feelings about, speak that. And the third thing is relationships. What moves people when you're speaking in colleges or anything is somebody becomes moved by their relationship with you. And stay with that relationship. Invest in the relationship. The message, yes, but the relationship, more than yes. Because sometimes people aren't ready, and sometimes. But if you see, this is Prabhupada, morning walk in Vrindavan. There was a context, but the particular message was, Prabhupada said, right outside the gate of Krishna Balaram Mandir, Prabhupada stopped and said, preaching means you see a spark, and he moved his hand like this. You fan the spark. Preaching means you see a spark, and he's breathed it, and you fan the spark. That's preaching. And then when you fan the spark, then it becomes a flame. And then he looked around and said, and you become a very competent preacher, the flame becomes a big blaze. He looked around and just, kept walking back to the temple. So that's what you do. See a spark and fan the spark. And, different students are going to have different interests, although there's, trends, certainly, but different persons. And you find that with this person, that person, another person, that little spark, and you fan the spark. And one of the main things that's going to help the spark become a flame is the relationship. Not just the fanning, but persons feel, here's a person that cares. And because they care, they open their heart. They feel that you care. They open their heart. When you be careful. Not too much, not too little, but showing there's care. And then there's a relationship, and then they're on their way. The spark has become now a little flame. Just here in Detroit, I met somebody that came all the way from another place. I'm not going to go into it. And they remembered meeting me 20-something years ago when they were in college. And it was still in their heart. No, many people it disappears. But some people it doesn't disappear. So there's a relationship. And he came all the way from some other place to just say, I just wanted to see you. You helped me change the course of my life. And that's, you hear what Prabhupada wanted to do. He wanted to change not just the course of life of a person, but the world. Now his empowerment was big, his heart was big, his capacity was big. So you're going to college places or wherever you go, be concerned, genuinely care. On the way over here, I came from Newark Airport to Detroit, and it was a United Airlines flight. And I travel a lot, but this particular flight attendant that was dealing with our section of the airplane was a very caring person. And without details, he did this and that and the other thing, just signed that he really cared. There was a lady sitting in front of me. She had a short sleeve, and the air conditioning was on, and she was cold. And she told him. He said, let me see if I can find something. He looked, they didn't have blankets. he went into his little suitcase and brought his own little, jacket and offered it to her. And she looked at it and he said, "It's okay, it's mine. You can have it if you want. You can wear it if you want to stay warm." She said, "No." You put it back. But so on the way out, I said to him, "You're a flight attendant. You're an exceptional flight attendant because you really care about people." Now that's fanning of his spark. I'm sure that's going to stay with him. And it should stay with him because he does care about people. It's being recognized. So, just be a personalist. And touch hearts. And some people are going to say yes, no, and maybe. And some people are going to look the other way or whatever it is. But, just be consistent because you have a purpose. There's a spark, fan it. That's what you do. And how you do it is going to be how you do it. Do it from the position that you want to serve our disciplic succession. Your spiritual master, Prabhupada, previous acharyas. Carry that in your heart, and you'll be effective. May not be immediate. You'll be effective. That's what to do. Okay, I think we're done. Something? I hear you have something. Okay. Hare Krishna. Speak a little louder, please, and hold it right close to your mouth, because good. Can you turn the volume up over here? The button's not on? I don't want to embarrass you either, but I do want to hear you. Okay. No, we got it. What to speak of the kids? Oh. Yeah. Welcome to the world. Oh, that's okay. New devotees get special protection from Krishna. Special challenges too. Okay. I like the question. It's very relevant to everybody. In fact, I'll just support your question with a teenager asking me the same question. The teenager asked the same question. They're a little different, but Maharaj, I hear about sadhu sangha and I know how important it is. And then I go to school and there's no sadhu sangha in school. What do I do? Fill in the blanks, the unspoken parts. Unwholesome people doing unwholesome things, saying, okay. I got the question. I'm just reflecting the question back, so it's not unfamiliar. The question was very good for the kids and very good for the adults because they have kids and also their kids, big kids. So you're a big kid question. Protection comes from bhakti. That's why we want sadhu sangha, because through sadhu sangha we get bhakti. It's like a spark next to a spark next to a spark, getting some fanning, and then it's a blaze. Now it's a much bigger blaze, and that gives you heat and light from the bigger blaze. So now what happens when you're not near that bigger blaze? You carry bhakti within your heart. What does that mean? What does carrying bhakti within your heart mean? It means you go beyond the bodily conception of self to a spiritual conception. Good luck in that transition. And you're a new devotee. You're not there yet. That's okay. You're going in that direction because you understand, at least notionally, that's who I am. And for the sadhu sangha, it's been reinforced to have some sense of protection in sadhu sangha. Now, let me carry that bhakti with me into this place, into the workplace, into dealing with whatever it is, family members or friends or social gatherings or something or whatever it is, taking kids to places where they also have to deal with the same thing. Carry bhakti with you in your heart. What does that mean? My life is meant for being in service to Krishna. Now I see a desert over here. I don't see service to Krishna. But so there is service to Krishna, and that is minimally you're carrying bhakti and you want to give that which you're carrying to others. There may be no opportunity that you see. Doors are closed or locked. Walls are up. And people are not like, please share your bhakti with me. I really like that the bhakti that you're carrying. Please share it with me. You may not get that invitation, but you're carrying it anyways. And you're a new devotee, and you want to be in that, you want to get to that place where it's firm and strong inside. You cultivate that when you do have sadhu sangha, and when you don't have sadhu sangha, you're carrying that which has been fanned by sadhus, and you're carrying with you the idea. It's just like kids in school. You're Krishna's instrument. I'm not going to meet the people in your workplace that you're going to meet, because I'm not in your workplace. But you can be a representative of those that are carrying bhakti. You carry bhakti. You have to give a Bhagavad Gita class in the workplace. You're just carrying bhakti, and you have to try to develop the quality and character of one who's a bhakta. So you're a little perambulatory Bhagavad Gita. You try to become like that. That's the carrying bhakti in your heart. And speak in ways. Chapter 17, text 15, Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 17, text 15, Bhagavad Gita. Speaks of austerity of speech, how you can speak when you're representing the character and quality of a devotee, a representative of Krishna. Austerity of speech. So develop and further develop those qualities of a devotee. That will be the lakshana, the characteristics of one who is a devotee that's carrying bhakti in their heart. And you display and you convey, you transmit bhakti without giving a Bhagavad Gita class in workplace or the place where you're taking your kids to do something or go into shopping or whatever it is, this and that. You're carrying bhakti in your heart. You're not there yet because you're a new devotee, but you're working on it. So let me ask you, A, B, C, D. A tulsi is a seed. Tulsi is a seed. Just listen, let me give you the options. A tulsi is a seed. Or B, a tulsi is when the seed sprouts and there's two little leaves. That's tulsi. Or C, tulsi is when the leaves, the tulsi plant grows and there's many seeds, but many leaves. That's a tulsi. Or D, when they produce flowers, tulsi manjaris. Or E, when those flowers produce more seeds. Or, so is it A, B, C, D, E, or all of the above? So all of the above. So you're a new devotee, you're the seed. You're carrying bhakti because souls are carrying bhakti. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajikabu Noi. You know the verse? You don't know the verse yet. All living entities are carrying not only bhakti, but Krishna Prema within. You're new, you're the seed. Just keep watering the seed or fanning the spark. And then when you go about doing this and that, it's the immature stage, not yet mature stage, but you're carrying bhakti. And you conduct yourself in a way that one who's carrying bhakti conducts himself. And, check in regularly with who am I? That this is introspection. It's what devotees or Vaishnavas do. They look within. I'm new. I'm not doing so well. Sometimes and sometimes not, and too often not. But I'm moving in that direction. That's the seed that's now producing some something, and then it becomes mature. So until you're mature, you're in the growing and maturing stage, but you carry bhakti. And take bhakti, take association of sadhus when possible. Just like this little gathering, we're just talking about Prabhupada. And that's nurturing, that's the water that's nurturing the seed. And then you do whatever else you do that inspires you to nurture that seed and grow it further. Hear some other recordings, or read the Light of the Bhagavad, or read Srimad Bhagavatam, or go see the deities in the temple and offer your prayers to give you the strength. You cultivate bhakti so that bhakti will grow. Yes. So allow for the fact that you're not there yet. It's a simple phrase. Well, you have to be patient. You have not just be forever patient. You have to be also determined. And faithful. And trusting in the faithful means trusting in the fact. Here's a nice definition of faith. It's right from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Faith means Shraddha Shabde. Faith means one has confidence. Vishvas kahe sudridha nishchaya. Sudridha nishchaya. Sudridha. Very firm faith, determination that by one thing all other things will be accomplished. Krishna Bhakti Sarva Karma Krita. It's Bengali, but it's easy to understand. Sarva Karma Krita Haya. All good things will be accomplished by one thing. What's that one thing? Krishna Bhakti. So when we give me, all of us, give our attention to that which is going to nourish Krishna Bhakti, that seed. It's not mature yet. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Welcome to the club. There's lots of us in that club. We're not there yet. So you just keep nourishing that which is going to draw your attention towards the purpose of your life, serving Krishna. And you'll get there. And so the transition is part of the joy. It's uncomfortable, but it's part of the joy. Keep going. Here's a nice way to think about the stage that you're in. It's called, there's a Latin word, liminal space. I learned this from Satchidananda Swami. So it's like being a teenager. You're neither fully dependent, neither fully independent. You're in this transition stage. It's uncomfortable. Being in a transition stage is uncomfortable. So you're feeling uncomfortable. Fantastic. That's a good sign. Because if you were comfortable, that wouldn't be a good sign. You're feeling uncomfortable. That's good. You're growing. You're between this and that. It's good. It's a good sign. Not like, yay, discomfort. But it's a sign that you're moving. So live with that discomfort, because that's what happens when you're going from this to that. The transition stage of life has its discomfort. Good. Keep going. And then it becomes mature. And then you'll have a more clear sense, because bhakti, the starting point of my response is bhakti will protect you. You go into circumstances there isn't sadhu sangha. What to do, how to handle it. Bhakti will protect you. No, what's bhakti? You carry bhakti in your heart. Even though the circumstance isn't bhakti laden, isn't so nourishing to my bhakti. You become Krishna's instrument, like the kids in school. You go into school and you make devotees. You don't just stand on your desk and give a Bhagavad Gita class to all the other kids. They'll run the other way. But you carry the quality and character of a devotee, and when appropriate, you fan the spark. you say the right things, you bring nice prasadam, you just have good qualities and good character. And some persons are going to be open to people who are real and genuine human beings and spiritual Shakti beings. And you create association. It takes a while. It's a challenge. But that's how to live your life. Whether you're in this transition or you're already there. Like he's much further than you in being there. And he's asking the same question. Similar, different, but similar. Yeah. Determined. There we go. Okay. Thank you for coming forward and asking your question. I think we should end. Let's say 20. Anything online? Gee, you have a question? Oh. Okay. Thank you. So the people can hear. Go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say thank you for the amazing class. Especially like your point on earlier in the class about how Srila Prabhupada, like how to a non-devotee, when Srila Prabhupada had no money, people would think that, oh, like he's hopeless, he has nothing. But I love how you put it as that Srila Prabhupada, yes, he has no money, but he has a dream, which means he has everything.
Yes.
And
he was rich.
Yeah, and I really loved the way you told us his mission and like how he achieved his mission. So, thank you.
Yeah, this is a little piece. It just is one book, but opportunity, and nothing happened. The book didn't get published. He couldn't go to the conference. So he struck out, right? No. It's the legacy lives on. The legacy lives on. Want to hear a little story? Sure. Malati is your GBC here, right? So I didn't hear from her, but I heard from someone who got a report of her testimony in court today. She spoke about when she and three other household couples, young kids kinda, they went to England and they had a Prabhupada vision. The shoot for the rhinoceros example. You know that one? Prabhupada, sitting in this room, he had a vision to change the course of the world. New sannyasi living in this little tiny room, with no resources, no followers, no nothing. Krishna hadn't piled on things for him, but he had a vision, this wealth, and so he did what he did with that vision. So she shared. I don't know what she said in the courtroom, but she shared that these three couples went with one very specific vision: get the Beatles to chant Hare Krishna. Because if the Beatles chant Hare Krishna, the world will chant Hare Krishna. And they were fixed, because they were sent to England to start a Hare Krishna movement in England, and that was their target: get the Beatles to chant Hare Krishna. Because then not only England, but the world would chant Hare Krishna. So I was told that when she shared this in the courtroom, the judge was perked up. Oh, you met the Beatles. You got George Harrison to chant Hare Krishna. So it's still, the vibration is still going on. So many years later, yes, indeed, at least one of them chanted Hare Krishna. But because somebody tried when they had nothing. So who are you? You're a little pipsqueak. That's okay. Have a vision of something that's following in alignment with the disciplic succession's will, and you do something, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be meet the Beatles. It has to be something that's doable, and you live with it. You have a vision, as Prabhupada did. If Krishna so desires, then whatever it is that you place your mind to, and it's authorized by spiritual authority, then go for it. Same with this college outreach and anything else that one might do. Rath Yatra's coming. Here's a Rath Yatra coming. Just a while ago there was New York Rath Yatra, but once upon a time, Tosan Krishna, I'm speaking to you, pay attention. Tosan Krishna is a Prabhupada disciple, and he was given the assignment to get a permit for Rath Yatra in New York City. So he went to the place where they're trained to say no. Their assignment is to say no. So you don't say yes when you're supposed to say no. But he asked for Fifth Avenue, saying that Prabhupada had said the Rath Yatra, gave the scriptural references, and should be on the most prominent street in that city. So they said yes. I mean, it was Jagannath. It wasn't Tosan. It was Jagannath. Jagannath jiggled things, and they said yes. And to this day, Rath Yatra in New York is on Fifth Avenue. Because Krishna wanted, and he was the instrument. Mission impossible. They don't say yes. They don't let people on Fifth Avenue. They let Jagannath on Fifth Avenue. So, you get the idea. We're little pipsqueaks. We're little specks. Insignificant entities. But take on something that's with the purpose, back to this, what your mission is when you're doing something. This is bhakti, but what you're carrying in your heart is, let it be for the pleasure of Krishna. I mean, that's going on, everything. Just like, kirtan. Let it be for the pleasure of Krishna, not people pat me on the back and say, oh, you can sing so nicely. Yes, I can sing. It's not for that purpose. You carry bhakti, and anything can happen. Anything that can't happen can happen. And then it's not you. That's the greatest happiness. So may that happen in you. Okay, anyone else? Yes, way in the back, and that's the last question. We're going to send the microphone back to you, even if you don't want it.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I wanted to understand if my understanding is correct that the light of Bhagavatam, you wanted to have a presentation or translation, like you wanted to print a book in America and
No, Japan.
Japan.
It was for a conference in Tokyo.
No, you wanted to do in America.
Me, yes. Oh yeah.
So I wanted to ask, is that you're mentioning it's coming in December? Is that what you mentioned?
It's Thanksgiving weekend in Houston, Texas.
Okay. And Maharaj, it will have some visuals in.
Oh, of course.
Okay, because like you said, I'm also.
You don't need to ask me that question.
Yeah, because I'm also like a person who understands more when you have visuals, so that's.
Okay, there'll be lots of visuals.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thanksgiving, Houston, Texas.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Temple.
Thank
you. And it'll be live stream also, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.